If you're looking for a small cap, disruptive technology company, then look no further than HPQ Silicon, who's on the verge of disrupting by several magnitudes the manufacturing process of fumed silica. What is that? Well, it's used commonly in cosmetics, toothpaste, powdered foods, and a whole bunch of other stuff we use every day that you don't know about. How disruptive is their process? Energy consumption down 90%, greenhouse gases down up to 88%, hydrogen chloride gas completely eliminated, and capex, the cost to produce, to build these plants, 93% less, all less than the leading developers in the world. And more than just talk, the fume silica industry has taken notice, as evidenced by multiple NDAs with leading manufacturers after the company announced their successful production of fume silica samples last year. And now they're off and running. Today's press release, pre-commissioning of the fume silica reactor pilot plant is now underway. Bernard, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks, George.
How do you like the Daytona tan that you actually interrupted?
I'll probably save your skin.
Hey, there are two parts of the press release. Seems like there are two distinct parts of this. One is the technical side, pre-commissioning of the plant, commissioning in Q3, and then there's the business side.
No, not commissioning. Starting to produce in Q3.
And starting to produce in Q3. And then there's the business side of even the commercial plant, the full commercial plant. I want to start the business side, obviously. We'll talk a little bit about the technical side and some of the cadence to make sure investors know what to expect in the next couple of quarters, this quarter, next quarter. But here's what I want to start off with. Once you start with batch production, then semi-continuous, you say the materials produced will be sent to several potential clients under NDA. These potential clients who have expressed keen interest in our material could become strategic partners in our journey. We're aiming to negotiate an offtake agreement covering both the material produced by the inaugural commercial scale plant and the pilot plant system. So there's a lot in there, but what really comes out of that is an extreme level of confidence in what's coming next. So let me break down to a couple of questions because there's a lot to intake there. Several potential clients under NDA. Question one, really quick, yes or no? Are those the NDAs that we already know of that you've press released for the fume silica side, or are there more? Because there's several potential clients under NDA. Are there more under NDA?
Probably a few more, but the three mains or the mains are the one that started it at the beginning. Okay. And
it's good to know that there's several more. Didn't know about that.
But it's like it's at one point, announcing an NDA more is. We already covered. How can I say this? We already covered the top five, and actually through a joint contact of us, we actually now have a contact with one in Asia. There's another one in the top five. So we haven't signed an NDA with them, but we started discussion through intermediary about them. So it's like it's like if you get the top dogs to like what you're doing. Do I really need to worry about producer number 7? No.
That's highly encouraging. And now you're talking about potential offtake agreements, and we've known that's you've discussed that before, but you're looking at the pilot plant and the material produced by potentially the inaugural 1,000-ton per year commercial scale plant. What's changed in the last few weeks for you to have that much more optimism about offtake agreements going right into the commercial side, the full commercial side?
I have to think how I phrase this. Because I know more stuff than anybody else, and I'm privy to discussions that are not public.
Of course.
It's if I write that down, it's because it's there. I've been telling people. I know a lot of people are skeptical about it, but I've been telling them, if we can make it, they will come. And that's really where we are. There are things advancing and moving. I have to be really cautious about what I say, but if I write it there, it's because it could be part of ongoing discussion that I'm having.
Yeah, you're not one, that's for sure. And we've and anybody's been with HPQ for at least the last 3 years. Any
Mhm.
shareholder out there knows that you're very measured in what you say. You don't just engage in wild speculation that maybe we're going to boil the ocean's water, the world's oceans, or something like that. So I just want to I want to point that out, and I want to hear what you had to say.
Well,
I thought that was
the,
important. Go ahead.
the key takeaway is this, all right? Um, we've made the stuff at lab scale. We are scaling it up at pilot commercials, ultra small scale commercial capacity, which is 50 ton per year. And from then on, we will be scaling up to 1,000 ton per system. Okay. Since we've sent our first sample, if you go back to the release last week, we are on ongoing discussion with parties under NDA. And those discussions are evolving because things are going to start to move faster from the moment we actually do make the material. All right. And the second part of it is you realize why, because of the, I hate to use this word, but truly disruptive advantage. Okay. This is a moment, and I know it's not reflected in the share price, but this is really a moment where where we are going to do something, which is making fumed silica directly from quartz, that will make obsolete all the other systems. Now, there's at least, how can I say this? There's one group that's more enlightened, more open-minded to this than the others. But that reality, they cannot change that reality from happening. Okay.
I mean, devil's advocate, you still got to prove it at a larger scale. So this tells me that there's a big level of confidence both internally with you, with Pyrogenesis, and whatever NDA partners or partner you're talking about, that it's not going to be that big of a jump to actually just prove it once and for all
Okay.
at pilot plant scale and commercial scale. The should we take it? Should we take your words as being that there's less that concern has been mitigated? Not there's a concern before, but any risks related to that are mitigated, and everyone's almost starting to
Well,
plan for the possibility of looking beyond that and into, okay, how do we
well,
work together? Is that what's going on?
yes, but remember, we issued a press release says we optimize the system to go faster to commercial scale. Everything is designed and thought to work that way. There are some part of what we're doing, we're not reinventing the wheel in the sense that for this type of processes, okay, there are very clear guidelines that if you follow them, you won't really get any big issues. That's based on empirical studies over time. Okay. And we're not outside anywhere of those scales. So as we said in the first study, for us going going from 50 ton per year to 1,000 ton per year, and we said that in the January 10 press release, that's completely within the norm of acceptable processes being done. That's being done on a regular basis all over the world. So there's nothing abnormal. That's a normal scaling up process. So we're not doing, it's not a question, our technology is revolutionary, but the process we're following isn't revolutionary. Look at it this way. SpaceX, okay? The way they're done their rockets to go into space, coming back, okay? That's revolutionary. But the fact of bringing a rocket into space, there's a lot of steps that have already done by everybody else. So
It's a great analogy. The metrics, I talked about them at the top in the intro. I've got my words. The metrics are shattering because I've seen enough business metrics where people build a better mousetrap where, George Com improves CapEx by 10% and OpEx by 11% and, reduced energy costs by 7%. And people jump up and down for those things, say, wow, George Com has really, built a better mousetrap. But yours are shattering. That's my words, right? And you've updated the numbers, by the way. So in this press release, you updated them just based on even some more metrics. Is that what's creating the urgency? Are people really, when you first announced the metrics, they stood like a sore thumb for me. And I think we like a great thumb, and we highlighted them on screen because I'd never seen those kind of numbers. Is it a case of maybe it's too good to be true when you first put them out, but now your NDA partners, the world of fume silica, are starting to really believe those metrics as you get closer and closer to
Well,
pilot plant production?
first of all, I think the people that know most what's going on is pyrogenesis and us. Okay. The people we've signed NDA with are more fascinated with the product in the sense that is the product that we're doing fume silica like they're accustomed to fume silica? And then does it meet the application needs that they have for their clients of fume silica? All right. Then once that question mark has been resolved, then they start looking at the financials of it and they're sort of like, but I fully understand that until we've demonstrated at least a pilot scale, there's going to be a bit of skepticism, although I don't think there's really skepticism. It's just,
Due diligence. You just have to see it
yeah,
actually happen.
you actually have to see it to happen. It's like it's a very weird concept to say that the cost for me to make my fume silica, if it's 150 cubic meters per gram or 300, the cost for me is going to be the same for multiple reasons, but there's no cost difference. In the industry, that's unheard of. Okay. Like in silicone metal, right? 1N material doesn't cost the same thing as 4N, 5N material. As you go higher in purity, always more expensive. Because we go from quartz directly to fume silica, the cost is going to be the same. And even if there's a differentiation in cost, it's going to be so minimissimo on the entire scope that it won't really register.
That's pretty outstanding. You don't see that very often. That's pretty outstanding.
I fully understand that, people are going to be saying, look at the track record of the QR, but the QR is a success. The QRR, and I've explained this at multiple times, okay? That one of the main reasons why we're not as focused right now on QR is twofold. One of them is the FSR. These numbers financial make it easier to advance this project to commercialization. Then we can probably have cash flows to develop the other technology. And the second one is that we're working with Novation to basically transform that material into advanced battery material. So it's not a failure, it's a question of, it's not an issue, it's just a strategic decision to, like anything else, you concentrate on the ones that have such a massive disruptive advantage, okay? Then it's going to give you the capital to develop the other one without having to, go out to market to try to finance everything at the same time. So you have to be prudent in how you do it. You have to do risk reward, and the risk reward, it doesn't take a genius to figure out the fume silica has the best risk reward profile out there. And that's why we're really pushing it. There was one technology that we tried, we thought it would work. It was the nanotechnology. It didn't work. We just said, okay, that's fine. We'll walk away. But that's normal. It's like you can't expect, you can't expect 1,000% of a baseball player to get 1,000%, to hit 1,000.
As you've kind of telegraphed for months now, like we're in June, maybe last summer, when it's been almost a year, give or take, where you've been basically saying fume silica is going to take over as a lead horse. And it's any reasonable business person would agree with you 100% that when you're a pre-revenue company, you want to advance the division, the leg, whatever you want to call it, of the company that's most likely to commercialize first. That's just business 101. So I don't think anyone who's trying to make comparison to QRR, I think that's kind of silly, and I don't think most people do. Question for you: you already did a little kind of future outlook by talking about offtake agreements for the inaugural 1,000-ton per year plant. But then further down, you take even further and you say the fumed silica reactor tech has the potential to change fumed silica manufacturing. HPQ is uniquely positioned to be the sole provider capable of supplying materials required to meet the increasing demand for low fume silica products. And
Low
here's
carbon,
the
low
apex,
carbon,
low
low
carbon fume
carbon.
silica. And then this is the apex. This demand is anticipated to necessitate the deployment of numerous 1,000 ton per year fume silica reactors in the future. What do you base that on? Do you base that
Well,
on CEO optimism and I've got this great mousetrap, so I'm going to have these all over the world? Or again, because you're putting in writing and you're not one to use your words flippantly, uh, what are you telegraphing there and why?
I'm not telegraphing anything. Doesn't take a genius. Okay. Market is $3 billion a year. So put Europe and North America at $1 billion market. All right. You have $1 billion market and you have a competitive advantage of what? EBITDA margin that are between 3 to 6 times better. I think it's 6 times. Let me just check, make sure I don't say something foolish.
Several multiples.
Several,
It's
several multiple, like almost close to 4.4 times, which is unheard of in the industry. So they can't compete. They literally cannot compete. All right. So think about it this way: they're the BlackBerries of the phone technologies. Now, am I the Apple or the Samsung? I don't know. One thing is for sure. We have a proprietary technology, we have a proprietary knowledge, and we are making the material. We will be making the material commercial scale at costs that are unheard of because we cut down the energy consumption. Second of all, doesn't take also a genius to figure out that right now there is no low carbon solution available in the market. None. There's only high carbon solution. So if you look at it, we can make the product cheaper, greener. Logic dictates that we will take market shares. Okay. Logic dictates that market shares will gravitate toward what we're doing, and for us to meet those market share, we will need multiple thousand, or maybe we'll go with bigger system as we see the demand. It's really a question of strategy. If you look at fumed silica is not a material that travels long distance well, not because it's heavy, but because it's very, very light. So shipping a container of air is very expensive.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, you're better off doing the one-time cost of building it somewhere.
Exactly. So because of all our advantages, we may end up finding clients, okay, that have a demand for 600 to 1,000 ton of fumed silica a year, and so they're going to love the concept of us being ring fenced next to them and just making it deliberately for them. So it isn't wild speculation, okay? It is just a simple fact. If we make it at commercial scale, and we have extremely high probability that we're going to do this, and if we reach the cost structure which we're talking about, which we have very high probability we will reach that, okay, then we will sort of become the elephant in the room for the industry.
And using your example, by the way, where you said, am I Apple or Samsung? First, I might correct and say, are you Apple or Google? Because Apple took their iOS and kept it internal, inside. They create their own
Yeah.
hardware, 100% on them. Whereas Google created Android and teamed up with the likes of Samsung and other hardware users around the world.
Yeah, true.
And share the
You're
technology that way. So if
Oh,
that holds true, you're Samsung, and we'd all be happy with that. But let me be clear, just in case anyone's watching our fudsters, they want to make no one's saying here that HPQ is about to turn into Apple or Google through Android, but we're just trying to draw an analogy there. Can you talk now? This is the technical side a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about the cadence, Bernard? You're in pre-commissioning now. and then you're going to go into production in Q3. Can you give us some ballpark? Because some people have asked, is this Q3 could go as late as September 30th? And I'm not trying to pin you down to a date, but are we looking at
No,
September 30th? Are we looking at we're looking at 3 weeks from now when we flip to July 1st? Ballpark, what do you think is if you can give us a comfortable timeline as to
I think
when you
it's going to
think
be much more closer to the beginning than the end of Q3. I really want it to be, soon the beginning. The moment we get the system, like we start commissioning, we'll start making product.
it's a lot easier than the QRR, right? It's a lot. All this
Yes,
is a lot easier.
the QR had something like a 4 days lead time to get the system up to temperature. And this type of system, I think the setup is even at batch process, we probably can do 4, 5, 6 tests a day. So it's completely different. There, a test was about 2 to 3 weeks. Then we had to disassemble the machine. It's not the same thing. So that's what I'm like much more optimistic, and I think people can understand why Peter converted. I'm going to be totally honest. I think that when we started this project, Peter, Pyrogenesis, and us, it looked very promising on paper. Okay. And we were very conservative with the numbers at the beginning. And as we advanced and we gain more and more confidence and we see more and more of those numbers, I can fully understand why Peter wants to be part of the company and not just getting the royalty. It would have been an incredibly juicy royalty, but it's a great deal. And you can see it by how for HPQ Silica Pulveris, okay, it improves the economics of the project to levels that are almost unheard of. We're having higher profit margin than computer companies, than software companies.
Unbelievable. That's
And very low capex. Very, very, very low capex.
Last month, Peter Pascali over Pyrogenesis, in order to stop what we think was in order to stop the bleeding of Pyrogenesis selling HPQ shares, stepped up and bought a big dollar amount of those shares from Pyrogenesis Canada in order to inject Pyrogenesis with some cash. And then in return, he's holding all those HPQ shares. And at the time when we talked about it, we couldn't put words in his mouth. Nobody can. But some inference you can make is no one's going to make that deal unless they have some confidence in what they're buying. All right, that's 101. Now you recently exercised 1 million of your options at 21.5 cents, at 21.5 cents.
Exactly.
What can you, and you've said a couple of times here, hey, you know what's going on, you feel confident, that's why you make these statements. Can you elaborate a little on that exercise?
Sure. I know what's in the pipeline. I know where it is. And I'm sometimes very limited in what I can do, but exercising options changes nothing. And you know what? I've learned from experience in the past where I exercised my options, did not sell them, and ended up hitting, some doozy tax bill. So I say, you know what? The usual logic would have been wait until they're in the money, and we know they're going to be pretty big in the money. But I said to myself, they're going to be in the money anyway. Well, my feeling is very strong they're going to be in the money because I know what we're working on. Might as well exercise in them with zero tax implication, which is worked out. So put some money into the company. Helps me out in the future as this move forward. It actually helps me, actually allows me to, because it's completely insane. Because of the way I did all my previous past option exercise where I sold no shares, okay? The account where all my options are, I'm underwater. I think my average price was 45 cents, 50 cents for those shares. Yeah, that's a big chunk. That was about 3 million shares, something like that. So by doing it now, I actually do reduce the cost of that pool of shares, and move forward. And you don't put that chunk of change into the company if you think it's not going to work out. And that's probably the only thing that I can do based on what's going on until some more news comes out. I can't, sort of like can't say more, but that's so interject any which way you want. Okay. The fact is, I believed enough in the company to buy another 1,000,000 shares at 21 cents and a half. And I did
Put my
that 3
lawyer
weeks
hat
ago.
on.
Huh?
I'm actually putting my lawyer hat on because you said certain times you're limited what you can do. Uh, I'm reading between the lines, and you can correct me. You can say I'm not answering, but CEOs, board members are often blocked out from buying open market shares. But that
Mhm.
doesn't prevent you from exercising options. So when you say you're prevented from doing certain things, but this is something you can do within securities law, is that it? And you don't have to answer, but hey, I'm going to ask. That's for sure. You
Well,
don't have to
we're not
answer.
in the US. We're not in the US, but I plead the fifth.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that. Um, that's all the questions I have. I'm going to leave last words to you because this is a pretty important press release, and I'm happy with what answers you've provided. Hopefully, your shareholders are going to be happy with what you provided. Last words to you, my man.
No, I just want people to realize this project is moving forward. Okay. And has moved forward tremendously since last year, about this time when we started to talk about fume silica reactor success. And I'm still sort of laughing because I remember we had an interview and I mentioned that one of the parties on their NDAs got excited by one of the pictures I sent. And I remember some fudster making comments about this. Well, I can say that that excitement from that picture has moved to all different levels, and this is coming along. And this is really what's moving on. What's interesting about HPQ is that the fume silica reactor is really the main thing where I'm putting the lights on. But that doesn't mean that the QRR and the battery work that we're doing is not advancing. That doesn't mean that the hydrogen work that Novation is doing is not advancing phenomenally. Everything is gradually falling into place. Now I can understand that it looks like it's taking time, but everything takes time these days. You know as much as I do. Sometimes you think it's going to be fast, and it's not that fast. But the good news of the good news that I want people to remember: fume silica reactor project is advancing. We're going to be making material beginning of Q3. We have interest from people to buy the material starting from the pilot plant. So how would get that production moving? And as weird as it is, okay, the transaction where Pyro converted its royalty to shareholdership will actually simplify us being allowed to use the pilot plant to make material. Because that pilot plant is not the property of HPQ Silica Pulveris, it's the property of Pyrogenesis because they're the one that were the piloting the financing government. So there's more than just one small things that has to be dealt to get things moving forward. We're seeing it right now. So my key takeaway is we're delivering on the fume silica. The potential is there, the market is there, the margins are there. Okay. There's enough margin for us to screw up 10 times and still make a killing, but we're not going to screw up 10 times.
With that, my man, thank you as always for joining us. Can't wait to have you back. Every morning I kind of look at my phone wondering, is Bernard going to call me and
You don't
say,
look at your phone that way. I had to call you twice. Did you check your message?
today, yes. Today, yes. Today you did have to call me twice, actually. But nonetheless, I look forward to those calls. I can't wait for the next one. Congratulations, another nice milestone, Bernard. And we can't wait for you and the Pyro team and everybody there to punch this right through. And I know a lot of your shareholders are watching with excitement, including myself. And we're along for the ride with you. Thanks for joining us, my friend.
You're welcome. Thanks.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. To Bernard Tourillon, CEO of HPQ Silicon, trades in Canada, HPQ. For our friends in the US, HPQFF. Start your due diligence at Agoracom in order to get the good big picture. but then head over to the company's website where once again they've updated their deck for probably the
No,
all
I haven't.
kidding aside, the seventh time this year.
I haven't
What's that?
updated yet. I haven't updated yet. I have it updated by the time of the AGM.
All right. Well, 98% of it will be there, and a couple of small changes are pending, but do your due diligence there, and hopefully today you discovered your next amazing small cap tech company. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.
Hey small cap fam, I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agora.com? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agora.com small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.